Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, and it's another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. And to do this show, I, of course, need the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the gentleman Josh Hill. Josh, how are you doing? We've hit February.
February, and we're still in this 2 week flatten the curve, cycle. It's literally Groundhog Day, and it couldn't be more fitting because every day feels the same.
It's been Groundhog Day since March 13th, 2020. Like, it's been
Yeah.
the same day over and over and over again. But at least we made it through another month. So I try to take the positives out of that, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. We're trying. It's just I'm tired of getting through things. I just want to, back to actual living. You know.
Oh, I agree. I think we're all at that point and seeing how other countries like Australia, they're back to normal there, and I'm like, why can't that be us? But you live and you learn, I guess, is the way to best look at it. But Josh, it was kind of a quiet week of MMA last week, especially with no UFC event. Though there was a couple regional shows. There was a banging XMMA debut show. LFA had an event, and KSW had an event in Poland. But a very quiet event, which was kind of nice. Get set back to reality, but. UFC's heading into an event this weekend, which we will talk about, headlined by Alistair Overeem and Alexander Volkov, which is a kind of crucial heavyweight matchup. But I guess I wanted to talk to you first about, riding some momentum still out of UFC 257, where, Dustin Poirier got his big win, and, he's talking still about, like, what he wants to do next. And, we kind of talked about it before, but he really seems content on either fighting for the title against Charles Oliveira, but he seemed kind of interested as well in this Nate Diaz fight.
Yeah, I could see that, and I guess probably because I think a Nate fight is it's gonna bring in more attention, more eyes, and it's probably the easier fight out of in my opinion, out of the I got fight against Oliveira or Chandler or Gaethje. So yeah, I can understand that. I don't. I mean, I just kind of caught a glimpse of an interview with Gaethje talking about how UFC and Dana kind of butchered this whole thing and basically how he kind of pretty much said fuck you to Poirier and somebody else he mentioned in there, just kind of like using them as pawns, and it kind of backfired, especially here in the Conor McGregor case, and I think that's why Poirier just kind of like I'm doing what I want to do, and just kind of calling the shots for what he wants, and I mean I don't blame him, man.
No, neither do I. And we talked about in the build-up, it was like Poirier, if anyone, had been the biggest pawn used by the UFC to, kind of leverage them to situations that benefited maybe the UFC more than Dustin Poirier. But yeah, it's kind of that Justin Gaethje comment. I haven't seen the interview. I did see the headline, but he's kind of right though, right? Like
He is.
they totally were using these guys for the benefit of you were going to be pushed back, hoping Conor beat Poirier, and well, that's not the reality we live in now.
Yeah, and I think he also talked about having Chandler as like the substitute
Yeah.
for the title fight instead of guys like Poirier or Oliveira, the guys that have been in there a long time killing it, and so that kind of was a shot in the face to them. Which I agree. I mean, I love Chandler, but do I think he deserved the immediate title shot as a replacement? Probably not. I think there's other guys that do it, but yeah, I mean, it's I mean that's just how it kind of goes with Dana and the UFC sometimes, and there's always going to be issues with fighters, but yeah, I do side with I always side with the fighters, of course, but I agree with them in this case as well.
Yeah, I mean, I get where the UFC was coming from in those whole situations, and they rolled out the carpet for Chandler and whatnot. But everyone's like, just because Chandler's fighting a new organization, I honestly feel like people think he's 0-0. Like, this is one of the best, as you've said many times as well, one of the best lightweights we have. I still don't understand this mentality of he hasn't earned it. Like, sure, he hasn't won some fights in the UFC, but he's been banging down and having classics. Sure, it was in Bellator, but he's still one of the best guys. Like, I hate this. He has to earn it stuff. Like, he has
No,
earned it.
yeah, no, I agree in that sense for sure. He's been one of the top, lightweights in the world for 10 years or almost whatever it's been. And yeah, just because he's not in the UFC, yeah, it doesn't mean he's 0-0. The guy's a freaking, he's a stud. But I just feel like if you came in I mean, a lot of people remember this, don't watch other organizations. You know, and they only watch UFC. That's all they kind of tune into, right? So they don't know. So imagine all of a sudden this guy that some people aren't going to know who it is now fighting for the title. You know, on short notice, all of a sudden there's some guy in there with Khabib, right? Or Gaethje, whatever, whoever would have fallen out. So, in that sense, I can understand why they're kind of frustrated, just kind of getting overlooked. But yeah, I'm a Chandler fan, so I'm all for Chandler getting his dues, right?
Yeah, I mean, I with him too, but I don't know. I just feel like the UFC, it's like the UFC club versus anyone else right now, and you can't join this elite club yet, where whatnot. But I mean, Chandler, if anyone, he's the one making the most out of it, right? Like he's saying the right things in interviews. He had arguably one of the most impressive performances of his career, how he got rid of Dan Hooker very quickly. Like, if anyone's gonna get themselves in the mix, like in the graces of the UFC for a title shot, I think it's Michael Chandler.
Yeah, he's definitely right there. And if not, it'll be a number one contender fight. One of the two. I think I don't think there's anything else. I would love to see Poirier Oliveira for the title. That's just my opinion. And I would love to see Gaethje Chandler as a number one contender on the same card. That would be, matchmaker. If that's what I would do if I was a matchmaker. But that's just me. And then like I talked about last week, I got to have McGregor Nate Diaz 3. I think it's a perfect time to do it, and it's going to be huge. And I think it's right time for both guys. So. I mean, there's so many things you can do with all these guys in the lightweight kind of tournament we talked about. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do.
Well, as Justin Gaethje is upset at Dana White, and I'm assuming they'll eventually patch things over because Justin still wants to fight and needs to make some money and whatever. But you think Dana can kind of find a way to salvage it? Because if the rest of some of these fighters are starting to feel like used as toys, especially the elite guys in their most exciting division, like Dana's got to do some smoothing over here.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before. Dana does a lot of crummy shit. And I mean, he does have tough decisions to make for sure, and his bottom line is always about making money, right? So you have to understand it to a certain degree, but there's still some degree where take care of your fighters first. That's the most important because without them, there's no show, right? So yeah, there has to be some type of an agreement between them. I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm sure with the right money and thrown at the guys, I mean, pay the guys. That's it. Pay the guys, and everybody will be happy. Trust they have the money to do it, so do it.
Yeah, it's funny. I just did an interview before I hopped on you with Chris Curtis, who fought in the PFL and had a big win on Saturday at XMMA, and he's loving life, and he's like, hey, what a novel concept, a promotion that paid well and put on a good event and made the fighters happy. Like, what a novel concept. And I'm like, I mean, the UFC, as you said, they have the money, they can pay anyone a decent amount, but they just seem to choose not to. But I don't know. I mean, lightweight is definitely getting much more interesting. I think it'll be the division to keep our eye on as the year progresses, especially with these fights to make. And it seems like Poirier the fight he really wants, the most thing he wants is to be UFC lightweight champion. So I feel like they're gonna have to make the Oliveira fight because, as we talked about, you can't deny Oliveira, a guy on an 8-fight win streak who just crushed Tony Ferguson, who was this mythical god at 155. Like, I feel like that will be the fight to make by the summer.
I think so. Yeah, and Ferguson or Oliveira, man, like he just shown like he's been there a long time and he's had a lot of wins and some losses, but against top tier guys. But I think he's just kind of coming into it at his prime right now, and he's firing on all cylinders, and he's looking good everywhere, man. His striking looks good. Like he's a physical presence in there. His jiu-jitsu is amazing, like almost armbar and Tony Ferguson, and I think he had him in a triangle at one point too. Like he's good everywhere, man. So he's a dangerous matchup for all the guys mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I think for one of the rare times, it's actually going to be guys that are true to themselves and true win streaks are going to dictate who gets a title shot. Where that sometimes doesn't happen in the UFC, where it's more about the show side to create the more revenue. Whereas in this case, it seems like the two best lightweights are guys that have maybe a bit of a following. I mean, Poirier is maybe having a bit more breakthrough right now because he just beat Conor McGregor. But, Oliveira's been a guy that's working away at it. And Poirier, he's had his dips and through his valleys there. So it's going to be, I think that's the fight they're going to make like you do. And it's going to be interesting when they get there, because it's just a fight we don't really get to see, where it's about true, sportsmanship and the sport and winning, actually earning you the title shot.
Yeah, winning actually, matters, and putting the work in and getting the W's, and just doing what you're supposed to do actually gets you to the dance, right? So it's nice to see that actually happen sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, as we said, lightweight is always such a deep division for not only just the UFC but MMA. Like, let's just move on to the next topic. The PFL, they had all of 2020 off. They shut down due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but they're back and they're better than ever because they will have their shows kick off on a Friday night, April 23rd, with the featherweights and the lightweights. And Josh, have you seen like how stacked their 155-pound division is? Like this, it just goes to show how deep that division is as a whole in mixed martial arts.
Yeah, and it just goes to show how many good guys are in the UFC and outside the UFC, right? So I just kind of I looked it over before we got on here, and yeah, man, there's some killers on there. Obviously, Pettis is the big name going over there, but you have the champ, the Schultz, or Schultz, is that how you say it? Schultz?
Natan Schultz, yes.
Colin Schultz, yeah. I mean, I think he's undefeated. Obviously he's undefeated in PFL. He's won 2 seasons. There was who else is on there? I can't remember off the top of my head.
There's the Canadian Olivier Aubin-Mercier, the Canadian gangster.
Yep.
Clay Collard, who's also a boxer as well. Marcin Held, who's a veteran there of the PFL. And Johnny Case, the guy that's fought in PFL. Yep. He fought in Ryzen as well. So he's been through the tournament system. And as well as
also that Russian Aliyev.
Yeah, Akhmed Aliyev. I was just gonna say like they have some depth at 155. Like that tournament just screams excitement.
Yeah, there's some really good matchups there. I'm interested to see who they kind of put Pettis with first, just to, I don't know, just see who they kind of kick him off with. Obviously, he's the big name, so we'll see how he draws there. But yeah, I mean, I love the PFL concept. I mean, I missed it last year. It sucks, but I'm glad they're back. It's cool. It's different. I like what they're doing. Hopefully, they can actually run a full season this year with no problems due to this pandemic that's happening.
Well, I mean, what I've heard is the PFL will at least be in a bubble type environment, and if any promotion could do a bubble that works perfectly, it's the PFL with this tournament format. You just bring your guys in, 2 weeks in advance and whatnot, and
do you know where it's going to be held?
I would assume it would be in Florida or something like that. I'm not sure that right now. I don't even think they know. But just looking at the states that are open, it's either going to be Florida, which is the big one, Texas maybe, but they don't have any really connections there. I could just see Florida. I know most of their events for their or Vegas. I could see Vegas. They have a lot of shows there done in Vegas, so yeah. I could see that. Nothing's been official there, but they have the dates out. So starting April 23rd, which is a Friday, which is kind of rare for them. But to your point though, on who you think Pettis is going to be in there. I mean, you're not sure, but if you had to guess, out of those names that we mentioned, who do you think that they match Pettis up with? Because Pettis is going to be one of the big names to bring eyeballs into this PFL.
It won't be Schultz, I'll tell you that right now. They're going to keep them away as long as they can. I don't know. I could see them, maybe like an Aliyev or somebody like that, somebody that's or Johnny Case. He's a guy that's an ex-UFC or two and been around the block, and so I could see one of those guys potentially, or maybe our Canadian boy will get in there and mix it up with him.
Yeah, I'm leaning more Aliyev just because like the styles and how they match up. But if you also want a super exciting fight, like Pettis and Johnny Case is just like a balls to the wall, back and forth, like Rock'em Sock'em Robot style fights. So I don't know. I mean, good for the PFL. Like, they took all of 2020 off, and people were kind of clowning them a little bit, but they've been able to make some big free agent signings, and they've created a lot of buzz. Like, there's a lot, especially with the news of who's in these tournaments today. There's so much buzz for the PFL, like the most buzz I've ever seen for the PFL. So good for them, turning a negative into a positive.
Yeah, and they, with taking the year off, they have to deliver though this year. Yeah. You know what I mean? As I know, a lot of fighters obviously were upset that they couldn't compete for a whole year or plus, and I get it. I really do. I'd hate to be sitting out healthy that long. But yeah, I think I'm hoping for big things for them, and I really hope they really deliver this year. I think they have to. And if they're successful, then I just think the sky's the limit for them. I'm hoping everything goes well.
Yeah, I think we're all hoping that goes well because once again, the more promotions there are, the better for not only just options for the fighters, but the sport's healthier when there's more options to go,
Mhm.
especially on the North American side. So I don't know. I'm just excited to see that because you always really need another promotion out there like Bellator, which we'll get to in a sec. Like they're so quiet here in 2021. And PFL, they're kind of filling that void that Bellator could normally be in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I just I don't know what's happening yet with Bellator. I mean, I've been talking to my management, and I've been hearing that things are kind of pushed back. I don't know the reasoning, what's happening or whatnot, but they are now. I was told late March, but I hear it's early April now. They have their first dates. I don't know what the delay is. I know they were taking January off. It was supposed to be February start from what I heard. But I don't know what's happening. I'm just, for me, I mean, I was coming over an injury anyway, so it's better timing. But in that sense, there's going to be a lot of fighters backed up, and that's going to be some backlogging there for booking. So I don't want to wait till friggin' June now, May, June to fight. So I'm really hoping I can get on one of the earlier cards. But I'm hoping once they start Bellator, April, I think it's April 9th, I believe. 9th, they just start popping off shows like every week or bi-weekly to kind of make up for lost time.
Yeah, I just find it odd that like we haven't heard anything from Bellator. Like you check their their PR social media, there hasn't been a tweet since like just their last show in December. Like Bellator is the #2 promotion in North America, and for them to be this quiet, it just isn't a good look, especially after how long they took off because of the pandemic. They built that momentum off, and then you cool right off. Like you can't win fans with that kind of a mentality. I don't know what the issue is, but starting in April really hurts them, especially with no noise, no matchups, no nothing to talk about.
Well, I'm hoping that changes. We're February what 2nd today, so I'm hoping that we finally hear some what's happening, some plans. And yeah, you're right. Being too quiet, people will forget about you and kind of move on and look for other things. So they got to put some shows on. They got to make some excitement. And I'm sure they will. I'm hoping anyway. I don't know what's happening. Hoping it's nothing crazy, but yeah, they got to start, coming out with some matchups, some names, some shows, maybe release a whole, kind of season or at least quarterly schedule of what the shows are going to be like, what days and whatnot, and yeah, man, get the ball rolling because we got to get going here. We already missed January and we're now in February, so let's get cracking.
What do you think as well of them moving back to kind of Friday nights? As we said, April 9th seems to be the first show for 2021. And, Bellator seemed to make a big deal of Thursday nights. They were going to have their own night. It was going to be separate, which I thought was a good idea because, you don't really see MMA on a Thursday. I mean, I guess PFL has that except their return show on the 23rd. But I thought Bellator had a solid run, but obviously they're not happy. Maybe the network isn't happy. But I don't know. Friday nights, it wasn't the biggest success for Bellator back at the end of the Paramount days. I don't know how it can be that much better on a Friday on CBS Sports Network, but hopefully it works out.
I don't give a shit what day of the week I fight on. You know what I mean? But yeah, whatever works for them and whatever's best for them, or whatever works better, I don't really care. Thursdays is cool. Friday is always. I actually like Friday just because, like, especially if, I mean, now it doesn't really matter, but when you're away somewhere for a fight, especially if it's somewhere cool, like, you know what I mean, fight the Friday and then ask for the flight to come home Sunday so you can get an extra day and kind of cruise around and see that whatever town you're in. But yeah, it really doesn't matter. Whatever works best for them, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just concerned because I want to hear some stuff from Bellator. Like, as if you're too quiet, you get passed by, and PFL's filling that void. Like as I said, more people are talking about the PFL than I've ever heard anyone talk about the PFL, and they've done what you'd think Bellator would be doing. Like I know Bellator, we've talked before. Bellator's kind of building themselves up with these top regional prospects that you can get maybe 10 years out of, but Bellator's making the splash with like a Pettis, Clarissa Shields. They have some stars there themselves, so. Bellator, hopefully we hear from you because you're getting left behind, and I don't really want to see that.
No, me neither. I'm on that roster,
I
man. So
know.
I need to fight, soon. April would be great. If not at the latest, I would, May. I don't want to wait any longer than that. But, yeah, I'm just hoping that they're stacking up, their deck, and they're gonna release them all, and kind of have, like I said, bang, 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 bang type shows kind of lined up, and I can get on one of those.
Well, as you did mention though, Josh, like, right now it doesn't really work because you're getting over an injury. How is the injury? How is your back starting to feel now?
Good. Yeah, really good. Best I've felt in a while. So I feel pretty good, man. Getting back into training, and not going too crazy. I don't want to push it too much yet, but I feel good.
Well, that's good to hear because I did see that they on their social media were like asking what weight class to do a Grand Prix for, and overwhelming people said bantamweight. So
Oh
maybe
yeah.
that's what they're trying to get the plot there, the plan for another Grand Prix. So I mean, if they came
I
back with
hope so.
that announcement, that would
Yeah,
be
it'd be
that
worth
would
the
make me forgive them.
Yeah, it'd be worth the wait for sure. I would love that if they did that. That'd be so cool. I mean, the only thing hindering that right now is this pandemic and all the restrictions because of international guys all over the world, right? So that's what kind of delayed it last time and why it took so long. So that would be the only thing kind of really stopping it. Other than that, it would be awesome to have such a deep bantamweight division, man. It would be, if you did a 16-man tournament or an 8-man tournament or whatever you want to do, that it would be all full of killers.
Yeah, I mean, just how deep their bantamweight roster is, right? And they've kind of been marketing that division with some of their Instagram posts as well. So it's becoming one of the poster divisions. But yeah, like I know I'm not sure. Like, have you heard anything from your management about like what travel is like to now America with this new administration in? Because I've heard it's going to be kind of like what it's here now in Canada.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I'm kind of waiting to hear. I was, actually supposed to take off to California, just to do some training a bit, and then this whole, bullshit Trudeau, putting in some regulations and $2,000 fines and staying in a goddamn concentration camp, I'll call it. But I don't know what's happening yet. Maybe that's hindering it. I don't know. Maybe with kooky Joe Biden in there now, well, he's screwing things up already. Maybe.
Well, all I've heard is potentially that's going to be similar to Canada with like a
Uh,
14-day quarantine and whatnot, though I don't know why they would go in that direction. As much as I don't mind the 14-day thing, whatever, but in this country right now, like we can talk about it, like this travel restriction or these updated travel restrictions, like I know it's to hinder people from taking vacations and whatnot, which I don't know why you'd be trying to take a vacation anyway during these times. Obviously to get away, but like still, like what's the point? Just travel seems like a hassle. But for an athlete like yourself and any mixed martial artist, especially some of these guys I know on the regional scene that are taking fights in the States, like goodbye paycheck. Like whatever you make is gone, just spending in this hotel for when you come back. Like I know you want to get these fights and continue your career, but this is maybe gonna make you think twice about taking a fight stateside unless you're someone like you who, fighting for a major promotion, but it's gonna hinder a lot of that thinking.
Yep, yep, absolutely. And yeah, first of all, I'm gonna stay in a hotel for 2 weeks or whatever long it is. There's no laws against that. They're not making me stay there. But anyways, yes, it absolutely right. It's so it doesn't even think about that. You know what I mean? There's no thoughts on that. You just screwed over so many people. Actually, I seen Lyndon Whitlock, my coach and a good friend, was talking about it in one of his posts, saying, he just, took so much potential income and opportunities away from people, like you just mentioned, that are, have the opportunity to go and fight or go and compete in any other sport or whatever it is, or a job, business, whatever it is. Now that you're going over there, now you have to come back and you're going to pay this $2,000 fine or whatever it is just to come back in your own country. A lot of these people in these lower organizations, and they're not going to get paid much either. Plus maybe getting a visa, that's going to cost you money. Plus your coaches, plus your food and all that kind of shit. By the time you come back, you're going to be minus money. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a negative on the trip. So there's no thought process into that. And as far as hindering travel. You know, I'm against this shit, that I am. And you see all these politicians traveling behind the scenes, getting caught left and right here. So it's bullshit. And as far as travel, I don't see if I want to go and sit on a beach in Mexico and then come back home and do my quarantine and stay away from everybody for 2 weeks. What's the problem with that? I'm the one taking the risk to do this. If you're scared, stay home. That's what my biggest thing. And I have no problem with people going on a flight and going on vacation, coming home and doing their quarantine or whatever to stay away from people, make sure you're not COVID. I don't have any COVID symptoms, but yeah, I'm just totally against it. Obviously, you can tell, and I'm not a Trudeau fan.
Well, I like for me, I just think of the athlete right now, right? Because it's
Yeah.
like you mentioned all what you're minus on, but like what I've heard is these like American promotions that are getting Canadian guys, they're getting them like 5 times cheaper because the Canadian guys are so desperate
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they can just pay them whatever like little they want because the Canadian guy's going to take the opportunity to either start their career or continue their career, right? So that's
That's
why
true.
that's the only thing I'm concerned with. And I've talked with some people and they're like, but they're going to get covered by, their league. Or I'm like, MMA doesn't have a sports union. Like
Yeah.
it's all out of your pocket. It's out of everyone else's pocket. Like
Yeah.
this isn't the NHL where, you get traded from an American team to a Canadian team. The NHL is going to cover that $2,000 or whatever.
Mhm.
Like that's the only thing that I'm just worried about is just the progression of this sport in this country because of these travel restrictions. It's making it 10 times harder now to even potentially run a show if you want to have some more talent from the States.
Yeah, almost impossible. Yeah, you'd have to run if you're going to run a show here, like a BTC talking about possibly, bringing over, an American. That's going to be like out of the question now with this bullshit. So it'd be just, strictly Canadian fighters versus Canadian fighters, which you can make work sometimes, but to have a full card, you need more depth to pick from. Another one was I had two of my amateur fighters fighting in this show in Mexico that was supposed to happen at the end of the month. Pretty cool. He wanted to do his own little fight island, which is a cool concept. And MFL is the promotion Maz runs, and he does a great job. And the guys were all excited. They got to go fight. They get to go to Mexico for a couple days. They do their COVID test out there or whatever. And then of course, boom, he hits this restrictions, and now no flights at all to the Caribbean or Mexico.
Yeah.
So that's obviously canceled or postponed now till they said May, but it might not even happen then. So those are the things that are hindering, obviously this sport in this country big time, which it's bullshit.
I don't know, like I see the point to it, but there's the point of going too far, which is kind of where I'm at. Like from like myself
Do
personally,
you
like
do you your question for you? Are you favor for lockdowns or no?
at first, sure, but like what's like really changed? And even when we see the results right now, where sometimes we'll have low, but it's like, oh, they had a computer error. Like, well, who's in charge of any of this?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
I,
insane. I think it'll be the next thing will be the new variant, and it'll be keep something to something to something. Look at Florida right now. You know, it, and I'm telling you, I just posted a thing. That governor out there, I love his mindset of how he deals with it, because it's exactly what my thoughts are and a lot of people's thoughts are, is protect the elderly first. Everybody else, if you're scared, you can stay home. But everything's open for business. People are able to make a living, and run your businesses like you should be able to.
yeah, I mean, Florida was one of the first, right? Like they opened for things and sports an essential business. But I think we're all getting to the point where COVID's going to be a thing where we have to live with it. Like
It's
we'll
going to be
find
here forever. It's going to
it's
be
like
forever. You
yeah,
know what
we're
I mean?
gonna have to find a way to live with. We can't continue to live our life locked down, shut
No,
down,
no.
killing small businesses, cities, towns,
But
people, pretty much.
you're killing. I'd like to see the numbers and the studies. I don't know if they've done them, but they're obviously not shown on mainstream media. Is the number of suicides, the overdoses, the domestic abuse, the child abuse, all the things that you don't see that are all happening now. Divorce rates probably higher than ever. Obviously, unemployment. All these things that this lockdowns and restrictions are creating, I think, way worse than COVID. I think, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion. So We we're turning this into a political debate here, but it's true, man. Ask anybody. The first few months of this whole thing, I was very like, okay, we should be careful. Obviously, we don't know what this is. Everybody, do the precautions, And then as time went on and stats came out, and we seen the reality of this, it's piss poorly handled now in Ontario and in Canada, I think.
I think Ontario worse because I don't understand. Like, we went into a lockdown after Christmas where everyone had seen their families. Like, it was okay to see your family then, but we're gonna be locked down like on the 26th, which the numbers of course are going to go up. Everyone's with their family, right? And then every time you see, wow, we had a dip in numbers, oh, that was a computer error, we messed that up. I don't understand that, but who knows? But I was just thinking of the MMA side of it, especially these smaller shows. Like, you're really gonna have to pay out of pocket 10 times more now if you just want to continue to fight. Like, I know a couple of fighters that missed a flight down to the States back in the end of 2020. They had to pay out of pocket for that. So imagine you missed your flight. Like, what money are you redeeming out of just like improving your record, which, I guess you have to treat your career as an investment right now.
Yeah.
But there needs to be some financial compensation because you can't just be doing this for peanuts.
Yeah, you're taking brain damage potentially for nothing. And I get it. You do have to make, especially in the early stage of your career, you have to make sacrifices to improve your career, your record, your resume, to be able to get out bigger opportunities. So I get that. I've done it myself. But yes, it's going to be detrimental to these guys. They're going to be. I spoke to Alan the other day on the phone for a while, and he was in talks of a Canadian show going to the States to put on an event there, and then boom, this whole coming back, paying $2,000 type thing came in, and then think about that, how much money that would cost per every fighter you fly down plus a corner. That's $4,000 per fight. Half of your fight. So if you brought in two Canadians, $8,000. That's it's insane. So it's just, I don't know. It's crazy, and it's not good.
I know. And I know a lot of Canadians that are they got contracts signed to go fight in the States, whether it's Pennsylvania or Alabama or whatnot. But I mean, those fighters have like a solid management behind them, but still, I just think this $2,000 to the hotel and while you wait for your COVID result to come in is that you have to pay out of pocket. I think that's just a little much. Like, I know you're trying to deter travel, but you're just basically making never one ever want to come to Canada right now.
Yeah, it's ludicrous. It's insane. It's horseshit. I don't agree with it. I like Trudeau as my next opponent.
Well, unfortunately, though, for you, I still think he's going to be prime minister for a long time, dude. So,
with the way this country's going and the people that support him, unfortunately, you're right.
Yes. Well, I just don't see anyone else that can beat him. But unfortunately, we don't talk about politics all the time on here. We get to talk about fights, and I guess that brings us now to the UFC's first show back since 257, and it's a pretty decent show. I mean, folk showcasing there on the heavyweights, as we said, it with the Alistair Overeem versus Alexander Volkov as the main event, and what a run here for Overeem as he's kind of turned his career around since joining the Elevation Fight team out in Colorado. Had two big wins against Walt Harris and Augusto Saki, and he's looking to now beat one of the guys that I thought would maybe have had a bigger splash, but still making a good run at the heavyweight division in the former Bellator heavyweight champion, Alexander Volkov.
Yeah, the Reem's back, and I mean, I think he actually should be on a 3-fight win streak, to be honest.
The Rosenstruck, yeah.
Yeah, that was bullshit, I think. You know what I mean? Like, Reem won that whole fight, gets hit with a monster shot at the end. Obviously, puts him out for a second, hits the cage and bounces right back up. But Rosenstruck just kind of walked away and called it himself, and the ref kind of just let it happen. I mean, I would be protesting that. Like, I know it didn't happen, but like I think that was kind of a mishandled, and I think. If he had lasted, it was only like 2 seconds left or something like that. 4 seconds left, literally 4 seconds left. You could just cover up, get your marbles. You win the fight. So that sucks. But anyways, I'm glad to see Reem back. I'm pushing for Reem. He's an old school Pride vet, been there, done that. Dream was it Dream
Dream, and he was a
K1
K1 and Strikeforce.
and Strikeforce. The guy's had all the titles except the UFC title, and that's his quest. He's had one more run I seen, and I'm hoping nothing but for the best of him. But yeah, Volkov's man, he's a tough out for anybody. He's very very tall, big for that. For that, obviously he's heavyweight, but he's super tall. Uses range pretty well. He's a tough out for anybody, but Reem's Reem. If Reem can and fight defensively, um, and he started doing that more so after Nagano, obviously. That's his best chance of winning. When Reem starts getting too wild and shit, his chin, man, he's been knocked out probably more times than anybody in the UFC. So I don't want to get hit. Obviously, at heavyweight, anybody gets hit, it can be game over real quick. But I think he can get it done. I'm gonna pick Reem in this one.
I think Reem, the Reem, Alistair Overeem can as well. I mean, they share a same opponent recently in Walt Harris, and they both got it done in about the second round. I mean, Volkov is still a really good, solid heavyweight, but I just don't see how he can finish Alistair Overeem unless he, mixes up his strikes, goes to the body, then goes toward the head. Because I kind of see this fight for Volkov playing out kind of like the Derek Lewis fight. Like, sure, he'll win some rounds, but if he gasses, especially with this being a main event of 5 rounds, like, he gets tired. Reem's been there before, right? And he's just got that power that he can turn on you. And as we've seen what happened with Volkov, like, his chin's kind of a little suspect. And you know what? I'm with you. I kind of am. I'm just also there for the story, right? Like, Alistair Overeem still pushing, trying to get that title. This is his last real run. As heavyweights really starting to stockpile up some serious contenders, let's throw Alistair Overeem still in the mix, and I'm going to root for him in this as well. And I think he can get it done, definitely in the later rounds, like 4th or the 5th round.
Yeah, it's a solid bet. I think. I'm pushing Pride Never Dies, man. So I think is he the last one from Pride still fighting? Shogun retired now, right? I think. So I think he might be the last one left.
Takanori Gomi did fight a special fight at the New Year's in Ryzen, but I guess he's kind of retired too. So I guess Reem would be one of the last few that are still pushing on from the Pride days. But yeah, Pride never dies. But the co-main event, though, Josh, real interesting one. Frankie Edgar, Corey Sandhagen. This was supposed to be Edgar's debut at bantamweight back in December of 2019, but then Edgar took the fight against Korean Zombie in Korea, but now they finally match up where Sandhagen looked fantastic against Marlon Moraes, really pushing forward, and Edgar in his debut won that real close split decision against Pedro Munoz. I mean, this is the fight Sandhagen wanted. He gets it against, a future UFC and MMA Hall of Famer in Frankie Edgar. I think this one should be fantastic.
Yeah, this would be a good one. Really good one. It's gonna be interesting to see. This is Frankie's second fight, right, at 35?
Yeah, second.
Yeah, he won the Munoz fight. Yeah, man, Sandhagen's looking good lately. His only recent loss was to Aljamain, and Aljamain got in him early, got his back super early when they were dry, and got the sub. But yeah, this is gonna be. I think Sandhagen will do a good job of keeping his range, and he's gonna have to against a guy like Frankie, who's obviously scrambling, great wrestling, good boxing. But yeah, I'm if I had to pick in this one, I love Frankie, man, he's a legend. But I'm gonna pick Sandhagen.
I am as well. I think Sandhagen, he like I said, he wanted this fight. You got to go out there when you want an opponent. You got to go out there and prove why you think you're better than him and go out there and get a finish. I mean, Frankie's always got such good cardio, such good endurance, but the way Sandhagen looked in that Marlon Moraes fight, where a lot of people were kind of counting him out, right? Like, a lot of people thought maybe he's getting towards the end of his run, even though he's still so young and at 13-2 now as well. But I think Sandhagen, he's vying to be in the mix for the next guy for a bantamweight title shot after Jan and Sterling do battle on March the 6th.
Yeah, he's right. If he gets his win, definitely he's right up there in that top 5. Yeah, this would be his biggest win of his career, probably, for sure.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for him. I mean, just once again, how deep bantamweight is, right? Like, just such a stacked division. And I guess as well, the UFC debut of Manel Kape, who was the former Ryzen bantam or flyweight champion, excuse me, or bantamweight champion, excuse me. There, he beat Kai Ascarai. He's fought in Horiguchi before. Like, he was an alternate for the Figueiredo fight a couple months ago in December, the Figueiredo title fight. So he finally makes his debut, and I think this is a guy that could really make some. He's in there tough against Alexander Pantoja, but this is a guy that I think can really become the bad boy of the flyweight division.
Yeah, I mean, I've only got to see a couple glimpses of him, so I never actually sat down and watched one of his full fights. But I've heard good things, and he's got a lot of hype behind his name. So that division, he could definitely make a splash real quick, and they got a dominant champion in there now. So yeah, I'm excited to see him in the UFC and see what he can do.
Well, I think it's kind of like what we talked about with Michael Chandler, right? Like, you're coming from an outside organization, you kind of got to hold that, and you're running that promotion's dignity up a little bit. So I think maybe Cape is kind of feeling that pressure. I don't know, but there's a lot of excitement and buzz, and I think he can deliver. Like, Pantoja's, as we said before, a real tough guy that's been in the running to fighting for that title. But I'm excited for it, and this card has some sneaky good fights, like Michael Johnson, Clay Guida.
Ooh,
That
yeah.
should be a fantastic fight. And
My boy Guida, I get room for Guida, man, always.
oh, I love that. Like, that's a fight where I like both guys enough where I don't see, like, I'd be sad to see whoever loses. But yeah, Guida always won my heart over that from that Sanchez fight back in like 2009. Yeah. Like, that was when Clay Guida won everyone's heart over. And Diego Ferreira, Benel Darush, like a sneaky good card coming up here for the UFC on Saturday night. And Jocelyn Edwards, who fought on the first show of 2021, made her debut, and she's making the quick 3-week turnaround. So props to her. Props to this card as well. Like, so much depth for a UFC event that I don't think's getting talked about enough. But UFC, they always have put on these types of cards, right?
Yeah, especially before and after big ones, like a one with McGregor, right? So you kind of throw in ones here, and then lead up to the big one, and then the downfall, and then again, to the next big one. So these cards usually do get kind of lost in the shuffle, but there's still some really good fights.
Yeah, I mean, lastly, Josh, before I get you out of here, I want to get your thoughts on. I don't know. Do you know who Stephen A. Smith is?
Yeah, he's my second opponent that I pick after Trudeau.
No, he should be number one. Let's be real. He should be number one.
Yeah, that guy's a piece of shit. I don't like him. Never have. I think he does no business talking about MMA, especially the way he does. I seen him hit pads. I was dying laughing. And yeah, I think you're gonna say, isn't it something about like how girls should fight, something like that?
He said he didn't want to see women fight in a cage and whatnot. When he even wasn't, the question he was asked about was more about like women's being executives in sports, like the Miami Marlins managers now, the first female general manager, and they just went on this tangent about women's boxing and women's MMA. Like, dude, we're coming off a year where the fight of the year in MMA was a woman's fight. Like, women's MMA is so vital to the success of MMA. I don't even know why. I mean, we're talking about it right now, but why anyone lets this guy talk about this sport is just beyond me. And I get it goes for the clicks and it's good for the MMA websites and this type of show, but just stick with the other sports that you talk about. Like, painful.
Who is this guy? I don't even know who he is. I guess I don't follow like social media a whole lot as far as that. Like, I didn't know who he was until he started talking about the MMA. What fight was it that he was ripping on? Was it I can't remember now. He said somebody quit. He called somebody a quitter. Oh, Cowboy. It was Cowboy Cerrone against McGregor. That's where That's where I first heard of him. And who's this douchebag talking all this shit? Yeah. And as far as the women's, what's his Just because he doesn't like women seeing women get hit? Is that his issue?
It seems to be what he doesn't like, but he was kind of trying to turn it to like, I never want to see a woman fight a man in MMA or boxing. I'm like, that's not even going to ever be a possibility unless it's like that fight circus type nonsense down in the Philippines or Thailand or
Well,
whatever.
it might become a possibility if Joe Biden keeps doing the transgender thing happening and they can women and can fight men and all this bullshit. But yeah, I don't want to see that shit either.
Well, no one does, but yeah, that's where Stephen A went off in this tangent where, like, women's MMA is as important to MMA as the men fighting, right? Like, just look at the quality of athlete that is a women's mixed martial artist, and they always deliver. They bring on the fights. Like, I don't understand why you'd be trying to set women's sports back, let alone mixed martial arts, women's sport back like 5, 10, 15 years with such a stupid comment.
Yeah, I mean, women's MMA was behind men's MMA, obviously, because, it wasn't really around nearly as long and whatnot. But in the last, I don't know, like 5, 6, 10, 5, yeah, 8 years around there, it's really kind of progressed, and you're seeing a lot of like talented women now. There was before, like, yeah, like 6, 7 years ago, there's only like a couple women. I'd be like, yeah, she's good, she's good. Now, like, there's so many really good, talented women fighters. So, yeah, this guy again, douchebag, loser. I like to smack him out. Has no business talking about sport. See you later.
I think that's where we should leave off the show, especially with the most heated you've ever been on this show, Josh. And who knew
There's
Stephen A?
lockdown, bro. Getting pent up in here, and I haven't fought in a while. I gotta get out and gotta train and need to get a fight in.
Yeah, get a fight in and save the bank account up because
That's right too. Yeah, I gotta get paid, right?
so. But yeah, well, Stephen A, you've riled up Josh Hill as much as you rile up most fan bases when you talk about their teams. Yeah. But Josh, as always, a pleasure chatting with you. We'll once again be back here, same bat time, same bat channel. And where can people find you and on social media to give you a follow? Because if you're going to bring hot takes like this, we know you're going to keep bringing them on the social platforms.
Yeah, I'm off Twitter. I just kind of dumped it. I'm not really. Yeah, I don't like the way they're headed and whatnot. But I have Instagram at Gentleman J Hill, and that my Facebook is just is me. So mostly Instagram. You can find me there.
All right. Well, Josh, thanks for the time. Thanks for the passion and the energy you brought today.
Thank you, brother.
Looking forward to talking to you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace out.